On the program today, marketers, airline operators seek end to aviation fuel scarcity. Federal Airports Authority improves security at Abuja Airport. Plus, United States of America denies campaigning to shut Kenyan airspace. Hello and welcome to your #1 aviation program, Flight 101. I'm Lillian Ezemak. Flight time is 30 minutes. Fasten your seatbelts, relax, and enjoy the trip. The federal government has pledged to end scarcity of aviation fuel in Nigeria. Managing Director of Federal Airports Authority, Saleh Dunoma, said the government would do this by refining the product locally. Dunoma made this known during a meeting on reliable jet fuel supply in Lagos. Scarcity of aviation fuel, one of the critical components of managing airline operations, remains a problem in Nigeria. Marketers and consumers of the product in Nigeria gathered to review jet fuel supply chain management from refineries to aircraft wings. They identified industry key issues to include infrastructural underdevelopment, overstretched port facilities, and zero refining capacity.
If we lay pipeline from Apapa to Lagos Airport, and it's not as if we're going to have bulk road vehicles on the road, that will remove about 1,000 vehicles, 1,000 trucks off the road every day. That brings fuel into Lagos Airport, where about 60-65% of national jet fuel consumption in Nigeria is. And that will also help Lagos State government in controlling traffic and also in preserving the infrastructure that is laid to be able to service the Lagosians.
Regulators of aviation sector, International Air Transport Association, agreed that reliable jet fuel supply is the lifeline of aviation growth in Nigeria.
Again, the problem is to put the money where it should be. Unfortunately, in terms of infrastructure, JT1, the difficulty is that sometimes there is not enough consultation in terms of those necessary projects in order to actually make a sound business case for proper projects.
The panel is of the view that government's role in resolving the scarcity of jet fuel is critical.
The Minister of Petroleum is going to make sure that we have enough quantity of aviation fuel imported. The second is how do we reduce the cost by way of producing aviation fuel in Nigeria. It was also discussed at length, and then it was agreed that at least 2 of our refineries will soon start production of aviation fuel, Port Harcourt Refinery and Kaduna Refinery.
Aviation fuel companies seek government support in sourcing foreign exchange, long-term fuel storage at the airports, licenses to more private refineries that are jet fuel-based, and increased use of hydrant pipeline as supply route from the airfield depot to the airports. The Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria has warned that new security measures being put in place at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, may lead to flight delays. Spokesman of the agency, Yakubu Dati, made this known recently.
The General Manager Corporate Communication, FAN, appeals to intending Abuja passengers to arrive early at the airport in order to complete security checks and boarding process in good time to ensure seamless travel.
There's an upsurge of traffic at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja, and that is because we're expecting a lot of dignitaries, foreign dignitaries, VVIPs, who will be attending the International Summit on Security, and that is why we also introduce certain security measures. We also appeal that people who have no business whatsoever with the airport should please keep away from the airport, as we have the eagle-eyed security men patrolling and ensuring that only people that have business to do with the airport are allowed around the airport.
And for Lagos passengers who are dissatisfied with the Murtala Mohammed Terminal and car park, he has this response.
The new international terminal is coming up, which is situated just beside the present terminal. So it will be commissioned at the end of the year, and it will now give room for us to adequately retire the old terminal, which is about 37 years old. With the coming in of the new terminal, we're going to have modern facilities that will take care of issues like the disabled. We'll have functional and effective escalators, conveyor belts, all of international standards. We'll also have good avio bridges that will be able to take in the latest aircrafts that are in the market.
The spokesman said the new security measures and upgrades at the two airports are in accordance with the recommendations of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO.
National Association of Freight Forwarders says no to additional charges from Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria.
Efforts to upgrade aviation security have continued to receive approval from passengers, operators, and those doing business at the Lagos airport. But Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria's recent move does not seem to go down well with the National Association of Government-Approved Freight Forwarders, NAGAF. NAGAF is kicking against what it called additional fees, but the spokesman, Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, thinks otherwise.
The fund came up with additional 50,000 naira registration fee after we've paid 4,000 naira for the form per company, and we've also paid 20,000 per company. And the additional 50,000 to me is somehow insensitive, especially now that the country is going through economic challenges.
We are airport operators, and we provide services for which we know that our concessionaires pay for it. The airport is a captive business environment, and people who come to do business in the airport usually come on their own volition and because they see business there. So most of the charges we give out are normal charges. We also want to take advantage of this time to appeal to even the concessionaires who are not comfortable with certain charges to take advantage of the ministerial committee set up at the ministry to look at the charges that we are putting, because there's been some discussion concerning the charges, whether they are appropriate or not.
Chairman, National Association of Government-Approved Freight Forwarders, Segun Musa, has expressed worry over low traffic in import and export in the cargo section of the airport. Musa blamed the downturn in business on government policy. The chairman said this in Lagos.
National Association of Government-Approved Freight Forwarders and Association of Nigerian Licensed Custom Agents share mutual concerns. These include activities that hinder trade facilitation in Nigeria, such as high cost of clearing goods.
The issue of forex, foreign exchange issue, has been of great concern to us, and we are really trying to make a lot of recommendations to government.
There are some agencies that are actually saddled with revenue collection, that are saddled with control, but now due to the economic decline, they are now restructured to concentrate more on revenue. When you're looking at such agencies, you're looking at NAFDAC, you are looking at standard organization.
The association wants Nigeria to start exporting its agricultural produce, but certain steps must be taken.
Even with what we have, the agencies of government at the ports are not actually encouraging exporters. Again, our ports are not equipped enough to actually meet up with the demands of exportation. In terms of packaging, in terms of processing, in terms of all this, we don't have those facilities within our port.
We have called on government to try to create these incentives, partner with people that are interested in this exportation to diffuse some of these challenges so that people will be interested in using the airport for export.
Creation of more cargo villages, incentives to airlines, and more robust policies are some of the strategies needed to improve Nigeria's balance of trade and payments and job creation.
By the end of this year, Nigerian Airlines are expected to spend more than $3 billion for the maintenance cost of more than 350 aircraft that are expected to go for both C and D checks. The country and airline operators would continue to lose several billions of dollars to ferry their airplanes abroad for maintenance checks unless the federal government floats aircraft maintenance facilities locally. Former Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Harold Demore, said in 2013, Nigerian Airlines spent over $1.22 billion, that is about 200 billion naira, when the exchange rate was at 200 naira to $1 on overseas checks due to lack of any major maintenance facility. Nigeria has about 350 aircraft in operations, scheduled, charter and privately owned, that are ferried overseas for major repairs resulting in capital flights. South Africa, Egypt, Morocco and Ethiopia have workable maintenance, repair and overhaul facilities, as well as airports that operate as hubs. The process of taking aircraft overseas for repairs, according to aircraft engineers, takes a minimum of 2 weeks, with a corresponding loss of about $500,000 for C checks on Boeing 737. This expert has called for the need for partnership between the government and private sector to establish a local maintenance facility that could save the airlines more than 50% of maintenance costs and make Nigeria a technical hub for aircraft maintenance.
For each machine you have, you need to consider where you are going to maintain them. And these maintenance facilities are not available here because you didn't plan properly. It is not the business of government to build those facilities, but they must provide the enabling environment for investors to come and establish those things.
The various maintenance checks are the A, B, C, and D. A and B checks are lighter checks, while C and D are considered heavier checks. Nigerian Airlines would require millions of dollars, and more so when the checks are done abroad. Nigeria is said to have the largest and most modern commercial aircraft fleet in West and Central Africa, but lacks an MRO facility. The airlines have been urged to build a cooperative alliance with global industry operators for economically viable MRO facility that would address the industry needs. Now international stories. United States denies pushing for blacklisting of Kenyan airspace over security concerns, plus breathtaking air show from Russia.
U.S. Federal Aviation Administration is pushing the International Civil Aviation Organization to declare Kenya airspace unsafe. The U.S. wants Kenya's airspace classified alongside Somalia, Afghanistan, Syria, Ukraine, and South Sudan, which are considered unsafe for airlines to land or fly over. It has emerged that the Kenya delegation is battling to block the move, which the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration had already initiated with the International Civil Aviation Organization. According to a brief from the Transport Ministry, U.S. wants Kenya's airspace entered into the Conflict Zone Information Repository, which technically refers to nations with an insecure airspace. According to a report by the Standard newspaper, it's not yet clear why the U.S. took the move without alerting Kenya of any intelligence, or at least providing reason for the same. Meanwhile, the American government has formally denied reports exclusively obtained from the official government correspondences that it is behind a campaign to have Kenya's airspace declared a conflict zone. The American embassy in Kenya said the listing of the notice to airmen for Kenya on the International Civil Aviation Authority Conflict Zone Information Repository website was for the purposes of information only.
Welcome to our personality interview segment, The Aviator. Our guest is Felix Abali.
Felix Abali has vast experience in academics, research and aviation. He holds a PhD in mechanical engineering from A&T State University, North Carolina, USA. Abali was a principal research engineer at United States Federal Aviation Administration, manages structural integrity of small airplanes program. He was also a member of American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronauts. In Nigeria, he served as the Director of Licensing at the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. Felix Abali is currently the Commissioner, Accident Investigation Bureau.
Accident investigation is a process of determining the causes or the occurrences that lead to an accident, and also to issue safety recommendations if necessary. It is not the purpose of accident investigation to apportion blame or liability to any party. It is from the safety recommendations that we issue that ensure that the occurrence of what has caused the accident doesn't take place again. When an accident does take place, there are the people or organizations that are called first responders. NEMA is one of those. The community, members of the community surrounding it, the police and fire services. These people usually go to the accident site. It is NEMA that is charged from the federal government to conduct rescue and operations. Then after that is done, or even as it's continuing, accident investigators will go in there and then try to secure whatever the components of or the wreckage, and maybe any other belongings of the passengers and all those things, and then start conducting the investigation. The main challenges we have in AIV are those of funding. Funding has been an issue here because we only receive about 3% of the sales ticket charge that NCA collects from Nigerian Civil Aviation and the airlines. And it is with that we operate. Another challenge that we have is manpower. Again, manpower is going to be based on funding too. We need manpower in some areas, getting experienced people in air traffic control, and actually even some pilots and more engineers. Because it is people with those type of experience that we hire to be trained as accident investigators. You cannot just come here and start accident investigation. You have to have those qualifications, a qualification as a pilot or aircraft maintenance engineer or air traffic controller, and then on top of that you are trained. So all that again goes back to funding. If we have enough funding, then we'll be able to recruit all those people. The minister is helping quite a bit. He's working with us, and we are also working with the National Assembly to see that we get more funds, to get a little more than the 3% that we have been getting. So there is hope that this will be taken care of, and then we would have an establishment that will keep improving. Accident investigation, first of all, is a global theme. We all work together, and as we work together, there are some certain things that we can do here and some certain things that can be done overseas. We all work together. Just for example, we had the flight data recorder from a Sikorsky accident that took place in the Lagos Lagoon, and we contacted the equivalent of AIB in the US, which is called the National Transportation Safety Board, and even they themselves did not have the equipment to be able to download the information from the FDR box. And this is one of the best labs in the country. But after searching, we are able to find a lab in the UK. Actually, it's Air Accident Investigation branch in UK that was able to download information for us. Accident investigation is not about rushing into judgment. It's a careful process, and you cannot subject yourself under duress to do accident investigation. If you do that, then the results will be questionable, and it's not going to help the whole world. So, in as much as we have to send this overseas, I don't think, as long as we get the appropriate result, then that overcomes any type of small delay. The other establishments overseas, which are the equivalent of AIB here, are always willing to work with us. And in most cases, when we ask them for help, they are ready to help. And even if you ask them to come to Nigeria to help, they will pack their things and come right away. So even if there's a little bit of delay, it is overcome by the results, the quality of results that we get. We do not have a direct way of advising the airlines what to do or not to do. It is only through safety recommendations that we do that. So it's an indirect way. We issue the safety recommendations, and the safety recommendations are usually addressed to the regulatory authority, which is NCAA. And then NCAA goes from there, and they contact the airlines to do what needs to be done. But having said that, AIB has a monitoring program, because you cannot just issue safety recommendations and you don't know what has happened to them. We do go out to see, as a follow-up, whether these recommendations have been implemented. We cannot enforce it, but just for the records that these things have been done. We come up with safety recommendations, and we would hope that they are implemented. But the way the old industry is set up is that there is a regulatory section, and that is a question for them to answer, because our job is completed after we issued the final report and the safety recommendations. We have issued 3 what we call ASGs, Alert Service Bulletins. Those are, again, bulletins that would instruct operators and manufacturers to take care of different difficulties in servicing the aircraft, if that has to do with maybe the accident. We just had a ICAO audit recently, and the AIB session, we passed it with flying colors. We had about 84.4% as opposed to 77% that AIB got in 2007. So we did very well. That went along with the overall audit, but the section of AIB, we did very well in flying colors. We are proud to say that. We made the country look good internationally. There are different categories that ICAO audit deals with. One of them is accident investigation. We focus on accident investigation, and we work very hard to see that we are doing the right things according to the stipulations in the International Civil Aviation Organization, Annex 13, that deals with accident investigation. It just shows that AIB is following and doing things well according to the rules set by ICAO. The investigators in AIB are always working, either writing reports for ongoing accidents and also continuing investigations that have not been concluded. It could be in the form of analysis, it could be in the form of going to interview somebody. Those ongoing accidents are always there. And again, it's not only accidents that we investigate. A lot of people don't know that AIB also investigates incidents that don't always make the news. For example, several months ago, there was an airline with an aircraft that was taken off here from Lagos Airport, and it had a tire problem. A section of the tire came off and hit the wing and knocked off a section of the wing. Luckily, the aircraft was able to turn around and it landed safely without injuries. That did not make the news, but we have to investigate and also write a report. So there are so many cases like that. What AIB does not investigate is what we call minor incidents. But whatever it is, if anything happens to an aircraft, AIB will be there. AIB will look at it. If it is an accident, AIB will investigate. If it is a serious incident, AIB will investigate. But if AIB determines that it is a minor incident, then we release it or hand over to NCAA, which is the regulatory body. They will do the investigation of the minor incident. So we are always working. Our work continues to be the work of investigation. When we go there, the reason we are going over there is, in some cases, is because we don't have the equipment here to do analysis, or maybe some other reasons. But in most cases, equipment. If we don't have the equipment, then we'll go over there and then use the equipment. But that doesn't mean that AIB investigator is not going to be there. AIB investigators are always, we carry the component on the aircraft, and then we take it over there, and we go to the organization with the component. Then the component is opened in front of everybody so that nobody has any questions about tampering with the component. It's opened, and then if it is going to be dissected, it will be dissected in front of everybody. So AIB person has to be there. It cannot go there and then just hand over the component to the other organization and then go back to the hotel to sleep. That's not what we do. With this job, there is no time to relax. Even if you are sleeping, your telephone is on. Nobody prays for a bad thing, but you have to be ready to respond all the time. So you are sleeping with one eye and one eye is open. That's how I relax. I relax with sleeping with one eye.
Commercial airport runways are typically 2 to 4 feet thick, with layers of asphalt. Taxiways are usually thinner, with around 18 inches of concrete. The world's fastest airplane is the Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird, flying at 2,193 miles per hour. It has held that record for nearly 40 years.
That's it on the program this week. Thanks for watching. I'm Lilian Ezemak. See you next week. Bye.